Okay, welcome everybody to the Open Applied Linguistics Reading Club, Meet the Authors series. Today we are very honored to have Dr. Meng Liu to join us to talk about why and when diamond is still a luxury for early career researchers. By diamond, we mean diamond open access. For those who are not familiar with the term, so this is a special issue from Dutch Journal of Applied Linguistics. The special issue is dedicated to talking about diamond open access. Dr. Meng Liu is an assistant professor at the School of English and International Studies, Beijing Foreign Studies University, and associate at Cambridge Digital Humanities, University of Cambridge. Meng obtained her PhD from the University of Cambridge and holds an MA in social science data analysis with distinction. Her research focuses on the psychology of language learning, open scholarship, and AI-assisted language learning. Meng co-founded and co-convenes Open Applied Linguistics, which is our ILA research network dedicated to the promotion of open scholarship in applied linguistics. She is the winner of the 2022 Language Teaching Christopher Buffett Essay Prize. Her work has appeared in journals such as Applied Linguistics, Journal of Multilingual and Multicultural Development, Language Teaching, Language Testing, and System. Welcome on to the Reading Club.
Thank you. Thank you, Citrin. Thank you for your kind introduction. It's kind of fun to be at the other side of the table for once, I guess.
No, we're on the same table,
Yeah.
but you're right. This is the most interesting, not most, one of the most interesting and the one I personally look forward to very much. Um, so the first question I have for you is, could you tell us a little bit about your response article and what motivated you to write it?
Okay. So first of all, I would like to say I was quite lucky to have been invited by Sybil to contribute a response to their position paper on Diamond open access publishing. And I would say the main motive for me was really to get something off my chest. So there is this kind of paradox that Diamond OA is completely free, right? It's free for the authors, it's free for the readers. But for some reason, it is still sort of unaffordable to many early career researchers. So there is that sort of tension or that dilemma or paradox, whatever you call it. And I really feel like I wanted to highlight it, and I wanted to sort of get this sort of discomfort or the cognitive dissonance off my chest, so that people can look at this or discuss this more formally or more seriously. So I would say, yeah, that's the main motive.
That's really inspiring. It's really inspiring to read your article as an early career researcher myself. And I know you have been interested in open scholarship back when you are a PhD student, well, not long ago. And I was wondering, are there any other behind the scenes stories that you may want to share with our readers?
Well, I wouldn't say any sort of behind the scenes stories, but really maybe something like I mentioned a moment ago is more about this kind of, discomfort, like the gap between the consciousness and the action, right? So I mentioned this in my response paper as well. Like I've been quite vocal in the topic of, open scholarship, and like I have co-founded and co-convened this, research network on this topics. So I do very much want to align, my values and principles with my actions. And but when it comes to the Diamond OA publishing, I feel like this is like, this is the free diamond, but it's somehow unaffordable because there is like that hidden cost associated with this free model for publication, right? I mentioned this in my paper as well. Like Currently, I'm on a probation contract where I have, I need to complete a certain number of tasks. And one of the tasks is to publish a certain number of papers in SSCI index journals. So in the eyes of my employer, actually, they only recognize publications in SSCI indexed, journals. Like if I have published in Diamond OA journals, but those don't count in their eyes. In my probation evaluation, those don't count as well. So I kind of have to like I couldn't afford at least publishing exclusively in Diamond Open Access, even though I'm fully on board with this idea, and I think everybody love it, right? Because we no longer need to worry about the subscription fee or the article processing charges, the APCs. But still, it's like this is like something I can only do or afford on the side, but not like as the main venue or outlets for my own research. So that's causing me some, discomfort. And I wanted to, and I also feel like I'm probably not the only one feeling that discomfort. So I feel like, okay, so I need to get this out. I need to, put it out there, so that this is no longer just like people's private thoughts or, private conversations behind closed doors, so that we can, put it on the table and look at it and, see like, okay, so this is the dilemma we're in. Now, what do we do about it? So that's, I guess, somewhat related to the, the behind the scenes sort of stories.
Thank you for sharing that. And in fact, we are very happy to for the audience to raise questions. So if anyone has any questions, please feel free to either type in the chat or maybe just turn on your mic. And while you are preparing your questions, I have one more question for myself, uh, personally. And um, I resonate a lot with your experience about the requirement of, we all know that the employers love SSCI journals. And after knowing the idea of Diamond Open Access, it's also really hard not to consider publishing on Diamond Open Access, since it benefit both the author and the readers, because it doesn't cost you a fortune. It costs you nothing to publish and to read. And it raises a question for me as the the definition or the scope of impact. On the one hand, I know that open access articles tend to be viewed by everyone in the world, really. But on the other hand, I realized that people actually want to read SSCI journal articles more rather than science or open access journals. So I was thinking that even even if I publish on open Diamond OA journals, people, or at least some people, will still want to see those behind the paywalls. And I've been feeling some discomfort, and I don't know whether this is only me or anybody else can feel the same.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. And I think this is a really sort of you're touching on a really important point. So I think it comes to actually both in Sybil's paper and in my paper we talk about this. And so it really comes down to prestige, right? When it comes to like which
Yes.
paper are we reading? So it's either the prestige of the journal or the prestige of the, the author, right? So we recognize the the big names. Okay, we're gonna read it and we just assume it's gonna be a great article and that kind of thing. So prestige is definitely playing a role here. And that's which is why senior researchers have much more power than early career researchers when it comes to, shifting the publishing paradigm. It is actually this was explained very well or clearly in Sybil's papers, right? It's precisely because of the, the big names are all publishing in the, like the traditional journals, the high impact factor journals. Actually, they're contributing to that high impact factor, because, a single influential paper can really boost the impact factor of a journal. It's not necessarily, all the papers are high impact. But so they are really, like they're attracting readership. They're attracting readers from everywhere. People are going to figure out a way to get around that paywall, because they really want to read and cite those people's work. And for early career researchers, we're in a less powerful position or less impactful position because we don't have that kind of prestige yet. So even if we publish in Diamond OA journals, exactly like you say, it's free to read, but people don't know who we are, and maybe, they won't have, because there's simply the information overload. So they won't, even, spend some attention on those papers. So that's a practical issue. And that's why the senior researchers, they should really sort of lead the change. If they start publishing in Diamond OA journals, I would imagine a lot more people would start reading those journals, right? And another thing that's really relevant to this is about like how to say like sorry, I had thought it just escaped my mind because I was looking at one of the comment in the chat. But yeah, the other thing I wanted to let me just gather my thoughts. Yeah, it's like how to say, like how do we really effect that change? I think like we need to really divide and conquer. So even though I've just explained, like the senior researchers, they have all the power, right? They can lead the change. It doesn't mean that we should just be the bystanders, right? Like we should just, okay, let's just hide behind the senior researchers and wait for them to make the change. And we'll just publish in Diamond OA journals when when it becomes the norm. So I don't think that would be a particularly helpful approach because essentially we're still just feeding into that existing system, and we're not really, helping to effect change. And that's why, so I was advocating in my paper for a different approach. Like even though we can't publish exclusively in Diamond journals, we need to publish in some like more recognized journals by the employers or by, like most people in academia and things like that. We can also do other things to help. And another related thing about this is actually the conceptual barriers when it comes to the adoption of the Diamond OA model. So for us, is about the prestige, right? For senior people who have the choice maybe to choose between different venues, maybe for some of them, there is that misconception about the kind of quality associated with open access journals, right? I talk about this in my paper as well. It's like for some people, when they think of open access journals, they think low quality journals. They think, oh, maybe even predatory journals, right? And this is a real issue that we really need to, sort of decouple those concepts. Like open access publishing is like Diamond OA publishing is not for profit model. It's not a predatory, like publishing model. It's different from Gold OA publishing model. So we really need to like let people know about this so that the more, senior people who have that kind of, power and leverage, they can recognize the value of Diamond OA, and then they start, contributing their work there, so that we can really change the system. And I think for removing the conceptual barriers, this is actually where we as early career researchers, we can contribute a lot. Like we can really, try to influence our own supervisors, the people in our own departments and things like that. So this is where we are actually well positioned to contribute. So I think it's really like a divide and conquer strategy where, like we can help really shift the perception change. And then, the senior people, they can, like they have, I guess, more flexibility with the venues, and they can start publishing more or even exclusively in Diamond OA journals. Yeah, I hope that's not too convoluted. I know I just gave a super long answer.
No, that's great. And glad to see that people resonating and sharing the ideas.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the comments now in the chat. Let me just see. Yeah, exactly. I saw Zhou Xiaoyu is saying like, yeah, it's about the trust or the prestige of open access journals. I mentioned this example in one of the previous reading club events. Like I had this recent publication on open access in language testing. And actually during the peer review process, one of the peer reviewers, because we were advocating for Diamond OA publishing in that paper as well, and one of the reviewers were actually questioning like that recommendation. They were saying like, oh, that's, like, but this is not really high caliber journals, the quality. So there is clearly that kind of barrier, conceptual barrier, right? So they didn't even realize a lot of the well-known journals like, language learning and technology, like studies in second language teaching, learning and teaching, right? Those journals are actually all Diamond OA journals and they're high prestige as well. So we really need to start, shifting people's perception of that.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just looking at the next comment. Yeah, I totally agree with what Nathan said. I feel torn between different directions as well. So I guess that response paper was part of my therapy. It's like I need to talk about this to help address some of the dilemma. It was like at the current system, like I feel like yeah we at least I feel like we don't have a lot of choice because we're still being evaluated. For example, my contract renewal is still dependent on, the quality of the outputs. And by quality, it's a really very quantifiable metric. It's like they're just looking at, okay, so which like is it a Q1 journal? Is it a Q2 journal? Is it like the top of the top journal, in terms of the impact factor and things like that. So so yes, I would say for early career researchers, this is more like a survival sort of strategy that you have to like reserve some of your best quality work for the high impact journals. And I really wish we wouldn't need to do that, but I think that's just the, at least at the moment, that's the reality we're in. And what we can do is to maybe allocate a small portion or whatever we can, maybe after we pass the probation or something like we can publish more in the Diamond OA journals. Um, yes. So right. So we really need to, but yeah, I mean, I'm open to hearing your thoughts. I'm curious to hear your thoughts about this as well, because I also struggle like, so we somehow like need to play by the rules to then change the system, right? But when we are playing by the rules, like how much are we perpetuating the status quo? Like where do we draw the line? Like if our ultimate goal is to change things, then where do we go from, playing by the rules and, following the rules of the game to really making meaningful change? So that's a thing I struggle with myself as well. And I talk about this a little bit in the paper, like because I read it from another paper, which was really inspiring and so resonating. It was like they mentioned one solution is that you will, let me just look at my paper. Yeah, so play by the rules until you became established enough, and then leverage that to help change the system from within. So that approach I have mixed feelings, I have to say. So on the one hand, I feel really tempted by that idea, but then on the other hand, I also feel like, oh my God, that day will never come. We're just going to become, institutionalized in that system, and we sort of, feed into the system so much that we become dependent on that system, and then how can we really, break away from it? So that's a really like a personal struggle that I face as well, and I'm really curious to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, feel free to, if you don't mind, turn on your mic or type in the chat. Um, and I do feel this with you, Mom, that I realized that when you want to change something, you first need to get into a certain position or when you to be able to change it. And this process is long. It takes forever. It takes many years. And But but at the same time, I think we can as early career researchers we can of course make changes, but we don't have to feel guilty about not being able to change. Because I remember last time in our one of our previous reading club session, our guest said that for the an early career researcher also asked for advice, and he said you don't you shouldn't harm your career. So if you need to consider your career first. Well, I think from my perspective, as long as early career researchers are aware of this and attempted to make changes, this is already something different. It's already a big step. And you, yeah, I don't know what else substantial that we can do as a career researcher, but we should definitely, if the career, if our if the promotion asks you to do that, then having the strategy of publishing in those, SSDR journals are nothing wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. Yeah, I guess what we can do at least is to maybe constantly remind ourselves of this so that we don't forget like why we're doing this. Like we don't get lost in, pursuing the prestige or the, like publishing in the high impact journal. Like yeah, we still need to remember, okay, so our end point is still like trying to, have a more, I guess, more equitable, publishing model where we don't need to, like worry about those things anymore. And speaking of, actually, I don't know whether you guys have seen the news about eLife. Um, so the eLife is a journal in biology and or medicine, and they're like the editorial team there, like they recently had a beef with Web of Science. I don't know whether you have saw it on Twitter or on news or something. So basically they're being put on hold by Web of Science. So I hear the current direction is that they will lose their impact factor next year. The reason is that eLife, that journal, they have adopted a new publishing model, and that new published model is not related to Diamond OA publishing, but it's related to how they're doing the peer review. So they're actually have open peer review basically. So they no longer reject papers that are sent out for review. And so basically you only need to pass through the editorial screening. And then once your paper, go out for review, everything is public. Your paper is already out there. So that's like a new model for publication, which I think is more open and transparent. So they're trying to sort of go for open scholarship. But then this is in conflict with Web of Science, their current model because they sort of rely on this gatekeeping mechanism, and to keep their, impact factor and, to follow their rules to do the peer review in a certain way and things like that. So there's that conflict. But that editorial team was like they're so admirable because they're standing up against this giant, like publisher and this old system, and they're just saying we don't want the impact factor. It's okay if you want to take it away, take it away. We're still going to do, what we believe to be the, the right model. So that's quite inspiring to see. And yeah, I really admire their courage, and which is why, I'm still sort of having that kind of, struggle, even though I know like in my paper, I still believe in that, like the bystander approach or the martyr approach, neither is really productive. But to stay in the middle place and to say, or in the middle ground, and to find that balance, I guess it's not easy either. So we still need to, like sort of navigate this kind of dilemma and the kind of complexities. Yeah, I just saw Nathan's comment. Yeah, that's a great idea. Like to have a sort of a position statement on a research profile. Like yeah, like basically telling people about your stance on diamond open access. I think it would be a great way to remind ourselves and also hold ourselves accountable so that other people can see, okay, so this is, what we believe in, and we are, actively working towards that within the current constraints that we may face. Yeah, I really like that idea. Yeah, and thank you, Xiaoyu, for the kind comment as well. Yes, and that's another point I mentioned. I know it sounds like shameless self-promotion, but I do feel like open applied linguistics is at least playing a role here. I think we're what we can do at least, even though we can't like make, like drastic changes to the field, we can at least, start shifting the discourse somewhat, right? By hosting like this reading club series, I think more people are starting to think about open access publishing. They're realizing, oh, there is actually a special issue on that. There are a lot of people thinking about this and they're talking about it. So so they get curious and they wanted to learn more about this. So I think this is maybe more gradual, but we're still sort of like influencing or effecting change in the field. Um, and I would really encourage more people to join us. To sort of spread that influence because the more people know about this, the more we can get more senior and more powerful people, on board with the idea for open scholarship, the faster we can see changes really because we need changes not just from bottom up but more importantly from top down. So the evaluation criteria, the publishing models. So and I see some changes happening because I know actually a lot of the journals by this was mentioned in our last event, I think, and the event before. So the CUP journals, they're actually all Cambridge University Press journals. They're all flipping to open access to Diamond OA model. So we will because they're hosting a lot of high prestige journals. So they are setting a trend. So I'm looking forward to see more journals follow through as well.
Yeah, it's really great to have, master student joining us. I really think a master student should join us more. From the previous reading club, the people who are interested are mostly doctoral students or, you know, established scholars. But I realized that many master students, they will either continue their academic track or to become a teacher who also need research. So I really hope that, thank you for coming, Xiaoyu, and I really hope that our influence can be more wider spread to so people, or when they join a master's program in applied linguistics or TESOL, it's easy. It would be easy for them to know that there's something called open applied linguistics and open scholarship is important in this field. Yeah. So it's really nice to see everybody here, and I think we have a great session, and we hope to see you in our future events. And please do keep an eye on our social media, and please sign up to become a member. It's free, and hope to see you soon again.
Yeah,
Thank you, everybody.
thanks everyone. I really appreciate your questions and comments.